Amazon European Masters from restarting that campaign they began in spring for continuing to try and run the lower bracket gauntlet and prove that they are still worthy of being champions here. With this draft, with this change-up from both squads, Des thought it was X7 favored. I think it's X7 favored. Al.
So do I. So do I, because I look at this and I think that, yeah, it is difficult for Astralis to play this comp. I think you're obligated to be ahead. You need to be winning several key matchups. Yeah, this bot lane, you can afford for it to go even if your topside is ahead, but getting topside ahead is very difficult. Someone like Lissandra and Swain can be very tricky to work out. Of course, Aurelia into Gnar, something that you were chatting about. You had a couple of quotes to throw at that.
I did. I mean, like, the thing about the Aurelia into Gnar, there was a conversation with Alfari on the Euphoria podcast from last week, as it stands. And he was basically talking about the Aurelia into Gnar pick. And he was saying, look, Gnar actually isn't that bad into Aurelia anymore, in the sense that it's a known matchup. This matchup has been a thing for a while. And as long as someone shadows you as you make some of your wave crashes early on pre-6, and Aurelia tries to all-in you, if she doesn't make the all-in succeed, she kind of doesn't get to do a lot, and she needs to snowball, and she's not necessarily in the best space, at least according to Alfari, who is, of course, a master of Gnar. So.
And, you know, speaking as my own experience of being a mid laner, right? Aurelia in the mid lane was kind of solved too. You know that Aurelia, she gets to have the wave in the right place, gets to hop through the minions and run you down in a long lane. That's very difficult, but if you're playing around these specific points in power in a competitive setting, you can predict it. And if something's predictable in comp, you can deal with it, as long as your team is coherent enough. So that's going to have to be a question from X7. They've looked very coherent. And again, the word of the day, particularly for me, has been discipline. X7 have been very hard to get under the skin of. Though Astralis have very much been trying that. They can fight level 1 with this duo lane, but...
And Attila, of course, on the other side of the Sivir this time, not facing into it, but picking it himself. Got a Renata alongside him, of course, and Kasing's Renata has been pretty extraordinary, all things said and done. Those hostile takeovers have been as potent as designed to be. Maybe we'll take this opportunity to touch on this top lane matchup, because obviously for the side of Astralis, had a game 1 where Sankox popped off, a game 2 where Carlson did get a decent lead on the Gnar early on, and need to see what he can get done on this counter matchup on a very different style of champion, as maybe instead we have to look towards the mid lane.
Ooh, Captain Jack.
Well, cleansed by Tempt and leading up from his LCK brethren, following on Captain Jack's very slick fingers on the likes of cleansers and QSSs to ensure not too easy and all in, as Carlson looking to do it anyway. Maybe they'll just turn it back and look for it there, as Chasey has to flash at level 2. Overcomes Viking to try and get out of his own jungle, as Taxa looking to use the opportunity and pressure to this one. As far as he can, denting blows land, but indeed, good sidestep.
You know, it actually makes me a little sad that most players will not know who Captain Jack is actually as a person now, as a player.
Yeah.
He was such a great player in his time.
My fight.
These players trying to put their names up there in this own scene. Taxa getting away from the Eye of the Empire, doing decent damage.
There's a lot of damage. Still gets hit by the Nevermove, but a flash for the Ring of Frost, looking to secure first blood. I mean, Taxa gets a reset. A punish from the side of X7.
Okay, watch what's happening here. They're timing out this soul. Can they kill Taxa before he gets a double rotation?
Gonna try and do his best. They're gonna try and get the kill. Gets it. Chasey gets that one, but here comes the rest of Astralis. Over the Aurelia comes. Flash for the flawless duet doesn't quite work. And now the wall goes Viking. Dainty blows against Zenkuks. Double to Chasey's Gnar. Visions of Empire means Tempt can join in from way back in the lane, and Carlson's got nowhere to go. He flashed for the flawless duet, but his partner was not there. He's dancing by himself in the mid lane, and no one is there to watch him fall down. 3-1, and X7 are looking to run over this game like they did game 2.
Oh, Carlson's never gonna dance again after what they did to him. 0-1, he comes into the play, commits his flash, and they just don't execute. But Astralis, they're doubling down, they're going again.
The move lands, but there's the Ring of Frost. They're going to get Viking flashing with the use of the Vault Breaker, looking to get more auto. He's got a red buff, but he's taking a lot of damage. He might just get traded out here. And that means Zenkuks gets that one. Some important kills back, because it was looking very rough. Honestly, in some ways, it still is. Let's look at this bloodbath again.
So there is a lot of important stuff which goes on here, and particularly with Viego before level 6, stuff gets funky, because when you get a kill, you don't actually have your ult to bring you back into Viego for. But what you can do is you can use up your own cooldowns while you're still in the Stolen Soul, and then try and go back into Viego, and they get another rotation. Effectively get like 6 abilities instead of just your 3 at level 3, right? But X7 managed to find the all-in before that. They time it out, and they just outplay. They have the damage, they have the hands, and then with the double red buff, with the Irelia with no cooldowns, Carlson struggles to keep that distance, very short range, can't get any of that DPS down, and Chasey is a huge, huge benefactor of this whole skirmish.
Yeah, of course, the follow-up afterwards where they try to play the 2v2 means at least one's traded back, but you look at the gold and it's like, well, already nearly 1,000 gold in the advantage for X7, just shy, and that's not what you want to see in this Irelia. The counter matchup is facing down Anar, who got 2 kills and an assist.
And
got steel caps.
Got steel caps first back. Now, one thing which is often not really spotted when you're watching it from a spectator, but you feel it so much when you're playing the matchup yourself, is when your enemy is faster than you, when you have a move speed differential, because it's just so much more easy to walk away from skill shots, walk away from a melee champion and outrange them. Now, Chasey is gonna have to walk away from a lot of people, because that's 4 people on the top side of the map. Doesn't have a flash, doesn't have mega. This is gonna be rough.
So never gonna dance again, but maybe they'll try ganking instead. It'll be a teleport trying to turn around. There's the flawless duet, gets towed straight into the grave. Nowhere to go. Attila is the one that teleports up here to claim the wave, interestingly. And he will have Kasing here to try and back this one up. Here comes Carlson. The handshake lands. The ulti program doesn't, but there's nowhere for Kasing to go. Flashing into tower range. Trying to trade this one back out. The Nautilus lands the hook. Bailout is there. Not quite enough. Won't get bailed out. Carlson gets out alive.
That was a wonderful dive from Astralis. I was sat there thinking, wait, who's tanking? No one, because they managed to judge the distance, get right over the turret, and while Attila teleports up, taking the teleport on the Sivir, Kasing gets caught out, and suddenly, couple of kills are starting to rack up for Astralis. They're ahead in gold. That's a lot of gold over onto Taxa. The first pick, Viego. Taxa with a lot of gold now.
Let's have a look at this dive again, because it's a massive collapse from the side of Astralis.
So this is point and click into effectively point and click, because he's just completely immobilized. And while the teleport is in fairly good timing, it's just not enough. You're not that impactful as a turnaround champion as Sivir when you're only level 4. And Carlson manages to get out of tower aggro. If this was a dive before they just about spotted Renata and Carlson gets caught in tower range, it's a very different story. Maybe you do get that reset, maybe another tower shot comes through, but it's not to be. And we are in for another scrappy game. I'm liking this.
Let's check in again with Taxa, a player who had a pretty great game versus really. You can see the improvement we saw up in the KDA, up in the DPM, still involved in a lot of kills. And he's on a champion where he has to do a lot of the carrying. He's involved with all of the kills so far. He's got a red buff, maybe an angle in bot lane.
Oh, no flash for either of these.
Gonna try and get in. The encore comes through. It lands onto Kasing, of course, has got no flash. And Taxa picks up his 4th.
Oh, he picks up another. And when you're looking at this team composition, what did we say right at the start of the game? The Astralis are pretty much obligated to be ahead. They're starting to find that advantages. The gold's getting spiky. Someone on this team is now in a position which X7 needs to be very, very wary of. If Viego starts going off, things get very dicey for them. So that's something on the table. It's X7 not sliding into an easy 3rd game, even though they're 2-0 up. This one is set to be, once again, much like that first game, an even affair.
It is indeed, and it's a Divine Sunder at 8 minutes for Taxa. Herald's been taken by Viking, who will have a Vault Breaker to try and get out of here. Taxa got level 6, lands a stun into the dredge line, and that will be a dead Vi. He's taken straight to the grave. This time the kill goes to Kiba, but the assist is still there for Viking.
He's going to cross the wall here. He's got a lot of damage, remember?
Gets on to Chasey. He's going to try and run this one. Has got the flash, will hop over the wall, and won't need to burn the additional summoner spell, but it will force him away from this tower.
And he's already down on CS. He does not have any business walking up to this tower. Yeah, Kasing, Tempt, you can walk up here. I don't think you win this fight at this point. Even with the Heartbreaker Strike not available, the level 6 jungler to the level 6 almost solo laners across the board. I mean, well, Chase is the one that's down and at that level. You cannot be fighting this Viego. Viego is effectively another solo laner at this point.
There go Tax and Kiba. This gank squad, this roaming danger squad that's so used to being around mid lane has turned their attention towards the top lane and try and make this one happen. Chase will have a Kasing around, but he might be a little too late. Flawless duet lands. Here comes Astralis. Going to try and get Chasey into a dangerous position. He's got a flash. Carlson takes a massive tower shot, though. Needs to be afraid. Gets wall-ups down. Taxa misses the Spectral Maw. The Visions of Empire goes wide. Senkux is here. So is Viking. And they're going to ward Astralis off that dive.
Okay, so they avoid the worst case scenario, which is Chasey dying again and being forced off more CS or being forced off just in general. At least they managed to get away with that, but they don't manage to get things around. They don't manage to get a shutdown on their Viego. Of course, we'll have to be tracking that as well. If Taxa dies, that's basically 2 kills for the price of 1, but while all this is happening, these 80 carries are, for once in this series, even. Because there has been nothing put towards bot side. It's become a game about top side, which I do feel, throughout the course of this series, has probably favored Astralis just a little bit, or at least has been more even than that bot lane. Attila is suddenly not in this crazy amount of advantage.
He needs to be a little afraid here. He's going to try and turn one, misses the Vanguard's edge with a well-timed flash. Chasing nearly at Meganar, trying to hop forward and find another one here. The Flawless US does land, prevents an easy follow-in. Diego is here, and that means it's not going to happen. The flash advantage as Chasey tries to be aggressive in the 1v1.
Now, the question is that going to lead to anything? Because Chasey's now stood in that lane. Sing is up on top side. Cross-map's happening.
Flash of cease and desist does come through afterwards, though. Encore down, and Viking just dies. Misplay from Viking, who dies for the 3rd time this game.
Well, he's never played the enchanters in his career, but this one's making it look fairly slick. Gets a kill on the turret, the spell shields down. Can keep it landing? Yeah, he does.
Crispberg pretty low, though. Needs to be a little afraid. The dredge line and the depth charge mean nowhere for Attila to go. Crispberg gets a second, and Astralis now in full command of this game.
And while this is happening, stuff's happening topside. It was meant to be a cross map, but X7 don't find anything on either side of the map.
They don't. Chasey stayed alive on the top side, but Viking misplaying that dive heavily and gets punished accordingly, and Attila pays for the sins afterwards to boot.
It looks like a couple of cooldowns to use topside. Looking at the Senkuk's Taxa ult cooldowns, but while all that's happening, yeah, it really is right to focus on that bot side, because chatting about, oh, this bot lane, that's kind of even. Ooh, it's no longer just the Attila show down in bot side. That's 2 kills, Odo Seraphine. And the only thing scarier than the Viego in this game is Viego with Seraphine buffing them up. Once that comes onto the table, X7, who need to shut down that champion, are going to find it that much harder to do so.
Kiba and Taxa have been absolutely everywhere, because Sing still doesn't have level 6, but at least Tempt has a demonic ascension to try and turn this one around, and maybe they've gone too far. Nevermove comes back, and Tempt playing this one out in a 1 versus 3. Well, 2, but Kasing doesn't have that ult, as we said. Kiba, another Nevermove, will likely die to another Death's Hand, has to flash away. Senkuk's taken low, Chasey's down as well, and Tempt stands his ground and delivers with the fury of his demonic side.
And that is while Dragon is up, so Kiba, no flash, no HP to fight towards that one. Vikings back towards bot side, just about to get that ultimate back available. Has the Herald to put into Attila's pocket, at least even up some of that gold, which went in the favor of Crispberg earlier.
We'll use this as that counterweight to try and play for the Dragon. Another couple plates go over to Attila. He'll do his best to play his one out, and you can see those double ups. Of course, one breaks the spell shield, and the other one does the extra damage, so still got decent options to trade into the Sivir, does this Seraphine.
There's actually quite a lot of easy ways to break that spell shield, because if you have, you know, the Viego going forwards, the Lysandra, something is probably hitting the Sivir if everything is piled on. It only really takes one thing to hit for it to be a really big problem, especially with the amount of damage coming through from Taxa, as he's saying. You've got a lot of spiky gold over onto Astralis. Some carries very much ahead of the curve. They're going to get this one's a Dragon. We'll also find out what Rift we're going to be on. It's going to be a Hextech Rift. Right, that changes some things. Because if we're going to be on a bit of a side laning game, when you've got Aurelia very important in this one with a bit of an advantage, those Hex Gates make it a little easier to traverse the map. Make it a little easier to reset, hop back onto the map. So, whereas I feel like Astralis want to be the ones with powerful side lanes, X7 now have a bit of a tool to get towards those said powerful side lanes and potentially counter them a little quicker.
Of course, you've got a teleport on the Sivir and a spellbook on Tempt, who can have his own teleports. You've got 3 teleports plus Hex Gates, which means actually playing those side lanes can be a little trickier than you might like. And you know, you got his very fed Viego, who's managed to get a lot of those early objectives, but has traded that for some farm, and that's kept Viking at least within 1,000 gold, which was not what I was expecting when we hopped over those that gold a little while ago. And yeah, now got the Divine Sender, and the game has roughly stabilized, but 2,000 gold in Astralis' favor. The question is that enough of a gold lead to be able to play this comp? Because I know you said you wanted this comp to be ahead. You said that was a necessity, a prerequisite.
Yes. I think it is enough given who the gold is on. You don't really give a damn about mid lane advantage in a 1v1 or even bot lane advantage in a 1v1. If Viego or Aurelia can start leading the charge with a bit more beef on them, a little bit harder to take down, hitting a little harder, that gets very, very dangerous. Be able to make picks like this.
Hands the handshake, but he gets just CC'd into death. There's nowhere for Kasing to go, and he's left out to dry by his team. The CC chain comes through. Herald falls shortly, I'm sure. Astralis just take that one free.
Yeah, they do, and suddenly, X7, who for most of this series had great vision control, great ability to control the map, have
God's Edge coming through. Chasey not at MegaNet, just gets taken out to 1v1. Carlson, first kill of the game.
Topside advantages. The gold is one thing, it's one metric, but it's more important to say, where is that gold? Carlson, they're given a lot of resources this game. X7 not able to cross-map towards bot side, which is what they've been doing for so much of this series. And you know what? Astralis are in a pretty good spot now.
Oh, yes, they are. There's the tower to fall as well. They got themselves a Herald, so another one should be available fairly shortly. Yes, this bot side tower was a little low, but Viking was looking to see whether anything could be stolen while the Herald was taken. I think he gets a camp or two, and that's about it.
That's first turret down too. It's taken a little while for the structures to fall across the board, but now we actually have to ask a bit of a question, which we haven't asked for a little while. We asked it in game one, of course, when X7 were very far behind, which is, how do X7 get back into this? Because this is actually the point. Even 15 minutes in, you're starting to get a little bit worried, right? Now, you're looking for grouped up team fights, but you need to make sure the first kill doesn't come easy. Things like this can get a little nasty.
Lens comes through. Tempt's going to throw up Demonic Ascension. Will Viking go in, try and trade this one? There's a stopwatch, which allows some healing, but it's now a 4 versus 3. Flash away from Tempt, and he's playing this one so well. Viking to the backside, though. Very, very low. Carlson still alive. Bail out. We'll keep Viking in it. Taxer on the other side. Gets slammed into the wall. Shut down onto the Viego, and Tempt is still a demonic god amongst men. You cannot gank this Swain.
Well, how do X7 start winning these fights? You don't give the first kill easily. It takes a stopwatch. It takes a Swain being the target, who's arguably the hardest person to kill on the map. And it takes a Renata W2, but it's enough. X7, they deny the first reset. Aragon was saying it right at the start, right from Champions, like, look, if you give a first kill over to the Lissandra Viego, you get not just the soul being taken by the Viego, you get the frozen thrall as well. And that's just too much. When you're healing up in the Swain ultimate, healing up into 3 targets, have a stopwatch, have a flash, you've burned so many cooldowns at this point, it gets enough time. Maybe if you had that Seraphine there at the start of the fight, things get a little different, because they're actually adding in some decent damage too, but X7, they hold the battle lines, and they're cool, they're calm, and they come out with an important skirmish victory.
I believe the end of that phrase is collected, and what was collected was a lot of shutdowns. The one on Tax's head, the one on Carlson's head, and the gold is now right back to about 1,000 apart, and X7 found the lease on life they needed there when things started to look as though they were snowballing away from them.
Okay, next thing's up on the table. So we got another dragon coming up. Remember, this is actually the Hex type map. You see those sparks of electricity in the air. We're starting to look at, okay, right, where's the setup coming from now? X7 actually getting some wards down. They're going to have control over this river. They've been, with that teamfight victory, one thing which often goes a little bit missed is when you win a teamfight victory, obviously, more enemy champions are dead. It means they're not pushing waves. It means they're not clearing wards. They're not putting down wards. X7's get to take a lot of those advantages. But at least Astralis have that Herald to push in this mid lane. This is now a tug of war. See who gets to push in mid, and whether X7 can punish any overextensions.
Eyes on Tempt as well. No flash, no cleanse, no stopwatch. That's a double never move, though. Viking over the wall. There's the Demonic Ascension. Into the backline. Viking goes for the cease and desist, but he's on cord and about to fall surely. Does go down. First kill. Frozen Thralls will start to come through, but on the other side, Tank is taken so low. Will not quite fall, but does eventually, as Attila will get the other. Both solar lanes dead for Astralis. Tempt will use that Demon Flare to get a bit more damage onto Kiba, who flashes to get to the Hex Gates, but I don't know whether he can evacuate the area quickly enough. Chasey will crunch over a wall, and Tempt and Chasey will punish the Nautilus, who is very far out of his depth, diver's suit or not.
Tempt is such a beast. He's so hard to kill. He's taking up so much space in these team fights, and the damage is ridiculous. Takes down that last kill as rewards for his efforts in the mid lane, and Astralis, couple of team fights back to back, even with the advantages they have, were just not enough. X7 pulling themselves, dragging themselves back into the contest, even when they were so down. Actually, in the early game, we were starting to get worried about them, these individual matchups, but it just hasn't mattered.
4 melees into Swain and Sivir, and Tempt's been the shining light in that one, and my god, with that Leandries, he did a lot of burn damage. There ain't no killing this monster right now.
Lissandra technically is ranged, but you dive in so close, you don't often care.
Honorary melee.
At the end of the day, it's like everyone's in range of the Swain, and Swain is doing work. And after this, you're right, those shutdowns have come in. You're getting structures which are going to start getting hit now by X7. You've got a dragon being stacked up again, so they're even denying Astralis a a lot of their neutral objectives. So many things starting to go in the favor of X7. The collateral going in their favor. And even though this has been, again, actually a fairly close game, if X7 close this out, that's it. It's 3-0. It's Astralis going home. It's no EU Masters. It's no chance at diving deeper into the playoffs of this NLC split. And X7 poised to do so. Just take another team fight or two. You'll see them on their way.
X7, what a redemption story it has been, this split from a team that looked lost, demoralized, and frankly, a little bit disappointing. They lost Haru, they lost Jaeger in the top side, and the team just wasn't functioning in the beginning half of the split. Now making this complete gauntlet run. They got the Royal Road straight from round one, looking to try and make their way all the way back to being the NLC champions again here. Another game. They are at least in the EU Masters. That's step one complete, as maybe Chasey could find himself on the end of another dive.
Let's see how quick Viking can get hit. Quick enough, it seems like it is going to be hits on Tower. Taxa there to Shadow. So Tower down. Astralis, of course, losing out some of the grouped up fights, but the side lanes are still strong for them. So that's one thing down. And Taxa making sure he's just impacting the game, right? He's not farming Gromp while his side lane's pushing in or mid lane's pushing in, and he's just making sure he's present, he's available, he's ready to be called to the fight because he has so much gold, he needs to be at those fights. Tug of War does lead to side lane turrets on both sides going down though. I'm sure Astralis feel bold enough to follow up on Tempt, and they don't. But again, Taxa, I love the way he's just sitting in River. He is so important to this team right now. He needs to be close to the fight.
And needs to shadow one of the Aurelia or the Lissandra to kind of double up there. We know how that combo's supposed to work. You heard Aragon talk about it. Frozen Thrall into the Viego reset at the same time is a very potent combo of passives. The same with Aurelia. You can help her get resetting and running through people and try and get a hold of this game. Has now got the Gold Drinker to back up that Blade of the Ruin King. There's the Chempunk Chainsword backed at the Divine Sundra a little while ago. Yes, you've got the Seraph's Embrace upgrade from the Archangel Staff now for Seraphine as well. So Astralis are hitting some of their item breakpoints. It's just that's also true on X7, and their team scales pretty damn well, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, well, you're on 2.5 items for Sivir, and while the first two games were very much Attila-focused, been a little distanced from bot lane, honestly. We had, of course, a couple of dives go right, and that was one thing, but lest we forget what happens when 3 items hit on that Sivir. Particularly when you do have 2 or 3 people diving in, and actually Sivir can start ricocheting between them. Sivir can start racking up those damage numbers. It's going to be a baton pass a little bit between Tempt and Attila at some point, and I think that moment's coming soon.
It is. Of course, this isn't an Imperial Mandate swaying either. It's the Leandries, the Rylai's, looking towards Azonias as well. Having got a lot of the early kills, I think I can understand why you build towards the damages. Carlson.
Oh, he's caught.
Interrupted, trying to get to the Hex Gates. There is the cease and desist, and Carlson on this Aurelia is fighting the long arm of the law. Chasey gets that one, and that's a bit of sweet, sweet vengeance and Schadenfreude for the earlier stages of the game.
That is a difficult one to stomach for Astralis, because if you're not winning your side lanes at this point, you really are at the whims of whatever X7 are going to do on the map. That is a sad kill to give up, and Carlson, he has had a heck of a glow up from Spring, actually.
Oh, hugely so.
He was the individual lane player, playing on Renekton, playing on Set or whatever, playing for that dominant lane, and then kind of trying to transfer his skills outside of that. He's had to do a lot of learning about these side lanes, had to do a lot of learning about how do you deal with being on weak side, especially when multiple members are committed towards you. And that is a really sad situation for him when he has so much resources this game. He really does need to be a pressure point for Astralis.
He was asked to play a very different style this game around, asked to be a tip of the spear or perhaps a tip of the dancing blades, whatever really happens to be wielding at the time. But outside of some early heroics with the tower dives, it's kind of been well punished by X7 over the last 10 minutes or so, and now with 15 seconds on what will be sole
let's
point
look at what we're happening
X7.
Here. Let's have a look at what's happening here, because you're fighting for mid prior. That definitely helps in terms of not walking through choke points. Choke points against either of these teams are disastrous. You got Renata on one side, Seraphine on another. They'll control these, and X7 managed to win the tug of war. Glacial Path comes over, Keeper's pulled back. It's another never move attempt. Demonically ascends one more time, flashing in for a Mega Gnar as well. And the solo lanes from X7 brutalize Astralis. Senkux goes in, Senkux goes down. There is nowhere to go. True Ice melts just like that. Tempt is unstoppable. That feels like an apt description of this game. X7 win the tug of war before the fight, and they absolutely mash it. It's not a tug of war, it's a tug of just beat down, or other terms like that. Astralis, they were just out of position. They were against that Renata ultimate, which swept through the team. Taxa doesn't have any way over this wall. Gonna have to watch this Baron go down or die trying.
He's got no flash, no ultimate. He's not even got a smite at the moment. It's on cooldown. So I think he's just got to back away. Chasey will chase him away, his namesake. Being very apt to teleport back in, maybe to get something at the end of it, but I don't know how wise that will be. It's Crispo who was the teleportee. Chasey will surely have a hop to get out of here, I expect, although he's kind of like with Meganar in the wrong end of this pit, but there's the crunch and gets on out. Recall away, I apologize, from the likes of Tempt, and they get out with all members, and there's nothing
All right, where are we
can
going
do.
to for this? Because this is where we're saying, look, mid lane priority is really important, because if you have to be the one in the choke point, in the terrain, which is really awkward, this is what happens. One side, yeah, I mean, Seraphine ult can do great in a small environment, but look at that Renata ult. It's absolutely disgusting. Astralis are on the retreat before they even get to start the fight.
Never move, Visions of Empire, and Tempt is looking to reclaim the empire he started in spring. There's been some dissenters, some defiers, but they will not be denied. Bow down when you come for the king, you best not miss. The rest of the NLC needs to look on and be just a little afraid. The kings of spring will looking for a second crown in summer.
Get themselves onto Soul Point after that one. It's another set of picks in Astralis. They tried so hard to get the advantages where they needed to be to avoid situations like this. They tried, they really did. They flipped the script just a little bit. They took Crisberg off of the hyper carries, take them off of the crit carries, and tried to do something different, but X7 are just dominant all the same.
Big stun onto Chasey, but it's not going to be a 1v1, it's a 2v2. There's Vikings down here, they just need to buy time. The rest of X7 are doing what they can to break into the base, but now the teleports are coming through. It's going to leave Viking out to dry, they get the shut down. And that might prevent an easy enough shove in. The game's still going to keep running, but look at the rest of X7. They're coming to try and punish. Taxa, Carlson so low. Chasey nowhere near Meganar though, needs to be a little afraid.
Okay, well, Taxa just about to run out of the form, has to Heartbreaker strike. They're trying to find some kind of fighting retreat.
Gotta work this one out. Carlson keeping the stacks up best he can. Chasey trying to try and get this one out. The Visions of Empire lands. The Flawless West misses though. And we've seen this dance before. It goes Tempt's way, even if Aurelia starts it. That dance card, maybe you didn't want it filled in.
X7, they lose one on the side lane, but they're just so much stronger. Senkux has an ult. What can he do with it?
It's a hope, a prayer, and a use of the Frozen Tomb. He'll go golden briefly as Chasey goes Mega. We'll use a second option here. Encore through two, but a Meganar into the wall again. Chasey continues to find them as Tempt lands another until a one after. And just like that, Astralis crumble and burn out. It's a supernova, but it's Astralis imploding.
To the stars are burning, the stars are falling. X7 making it a clean sweep. You've got to feel that way. Fight after fight, they are indomitable. Pushing through the bot lane, not to be ended just yet.
You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in the plays from Astralis. They are desperately looking for anything, but it's a Hail Mary, and she ain't answering right now. Viking will land another Vault Breaker, and Crisberg's skull is caved in. Seraphine falls again.
It is just brutal. This is just utterly inhumane. X7, they just keep taking fights, and again, it feels like start of the game, things were going well topside for Astralis, maybe well enough that they could make the game not about the group fights, where the Swain just runs rampant, where you have this Civil doing so much uncontested crit damage, but Astralis, they've tried that. They've failed. They can't play around the side lanes. X7 are moving too quickly. They're catching them out too much, so they're forced into fights like this. And even with numbers advantages, even with okay angles of attacks, they managed to find some targets. It's just not nearly enough.
There's been a bit of a disturbance in the NLC this split. We saw X7 stumble, and we wondered whether this team was going to fall apart. We saw Bifrost didn't make EU Masters. We wondered whether X7 might not either.
Is this where you reply with, I find your lack of faith disturbing?
Well, I think X7 certainly did, and they're feeling more and more like the Sith Lords of old right now because they are ruthless right now. Astralis have got one last hope. And it's not quite episode 4 because it's in game 3 right now, and that one was where the Sith won, I tell you. Chasey gets Mega, and it's another dead Nautilus. Meganar to the wall. Great, Chasey is dominating. Carlson falls. Golden goes Senkux, but he'll have to deal with not even a podium position because X7 will claim at least bronze in this split. And tales of X7's demise were greatly exaggerated. They won in spring, and if you want to take the crown from them, you'll have to do it out of their cold, dead hands. And I can tell you, everyone out there, they are well and truly alive in the NLC. Welcome back to the European Masters.
X7. You know what? We thought they'd have a heck of a challenge.